Is he everything you wanted in a man? No, I gave you the world. You had me in the palm of your hand. So why your love went away, I just can't seem to understand. Thought it was me and you, babe, me and you until the end, but I guess I was wrong. Don't wanna think about it, don't wanna talk about it. I'm just so sick about it, can't believe it's ending this way. So confused about it, feeling the blues about it. I just can't do without you. Tell me, is this fair? Is this the way it's really going down? Is this how we say goodbye? Should've known better when you came around, that you were gonna make me cry. It's breaking my heart to watch you run around, 'cause I know that you're living a lie. That's okay, baby, 'cause in time you will find what goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. Now, girl, I remember everything that you claimed. You said that you were moving on now, and maybe I should do the same. The funny thing about that is I was ready to give you my name. Thought it was me and you, babe, and now it's all just a shame, and I guess I was wrong. Don't wanna think about it, don't wanna talk about it. I'm just so sick about it, can't believe it's ending this way. So confused about it, feeling the blues about it. I just can't do without you. Kill me, is this fair? Is this the way it's really going down? Is this how we say goodbye? Should've known better when you came around, that you were gonna make me cry. Breaking my heart to watch you run around, 'cause I know that you're living a lie. That's okay, baby, 'cause in time you will find what goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around. What goes around, goes around, goes around, comes all the way back around.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to the pre-recorded Kindred UMC live show. I am the pastor of Kindred UMC. My name happens to be Chris Haden.
Wow, you switched it up. I'm Courtney Young, I'm the Director of Community Engagement.
If you happen upon my name, it is Preston. You can take cleaning out of the kid.
I declare that you will
you cannot take the kid out of cleaning. I don't know if that's how that phrase works, but listen to Mr. Joel for me, please.
Over your family and over your future.
And that's it.
Yeah, over your future. That's all I got. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. This week we are continuing our journey through stupid things Christians say.
Is it a journey or a trial?
It is a trial.
I like
indeed.
your cup. What an upgrade.
I know. Well, this was given to me, as you well know, by a Secret Santa and friend who knew that I liked Star Wars, and I always fret over like gifts. I like. Seriously, I was like, they have to be the and like,
No.
Yeah, my wife and my mom both have been like, it's not that difficult.
It's not about the gift, it's about the person.
And this is a really good example. Like Ryan, shout out to Ryan, who's actually been on this show before and has been on the podcast. It like literally, he was like, "Well, you like Star Wars? Here, let's get in this. This looks fun." And it's awesome. I love it. It's like so good. Like you didn't have to go like, I don't know, what's his childhood like, and
Well, we know that.
like, yeah. So so I'm trying to learn how to be less anxious about.
You did pretty good this year.
Well,
You did really good this year.
I fretted hard over it.
Yeah, I know, but it was good.
It was a product of much anxiety, which is what I do every time somebody's birthday or Christmas comes
Well,
around.
you did good with Preston, Matt, and I too. You did a good job.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I need to learn to like panic less about it. Is what I need. What are you doing, buddy? You just doing laps?
He's like, yeah, I want to be a part.
Okay.
I want to say hello.
All right.
Gifts are so weird too. If
Gifts
you
are
have
best.
someone, I will toot my own horn, like me, who has a ton of interests and lets everybody know, like, you're going Zelda, you're going drums, you're going this, you're going music,
Monster
you're
Hunter
going
something.
fun, you're Monster Hunter, you're going video games, you're going fun, this, loud, drink, that, biking, hair, I don't know, anything. But for someone else that you know personally or something that's a little like closer, I understand you going.
I get nervous. I get worried.
I feel like I'm pretty easy to get gifts for. I have lots of varied interests.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So I'll toot your horn too. You as well. If I got you like a flower that said this flower is made out of metal because you are metal.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
like that a lot.
See, it's
But
fun.
Matt's a little more reserved, so he might be harder.
That's
Although,
easy because of whiskey.
whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try not to. That's what I do. I'm like, everyone's gonna get you that. I can't.
This is
What do I
now
do?
you're in my
Yeah,
headspace.
yeah,
I
yeah.
overthink it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to get him whiskey. That's so obvious. He'll know that I don't know him.
But really, Matt would be like, hell yeah, another whiskey bottle. Love it.
Right.
Nice.
He's like,
Well,
like, well, thanks.
This is such a good example of this is the kind of thing that I'd be like, oh, what? So he likes Star Wars, so I'm just going to get him a Star Wars thing? That doesn't prove my love for him. Like, and yet, when I got it, I was like,
You nailed it.
This is awesome.
There
I
you
love
go,
it.
yeah.
Like, this is amazing. Aside from maybe my bar set that my wife got me, this is like my favorite thing I got.
I was gonna
for
say
Christmas.
That's awesome.
to speak
Yeah.
candidly, I wanted to get you a Star Wars thing, and the only thing I could find was this like $50 glass, and I'm like, I think Chris would be
Yeah.
mad at me if I spent that,
Yeah,
so
don't
I
do
won't. So
Don't
I'm
do
like, what do I do? But it's also just Star Wars.
$50 that I can put on the
Yeah,
shelf.
yeah.
You know?
So I became lame and got you a gift card and go, I'm very sorry.
No, we'll
Much
go
love.
off. It'll be
No, I
fun.
know, but that it's literally this point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We've talked enough about Christmas. That's in the past. Let's look to the future.
All right.
Today we are going to talk about the stupid things that Christians say, and this one's difficult because it's actually not stupid, except for the way that Christians say it. It's karma. So karma is actually a legit belief and theology in Buddhism and other Hinduism, I think, like other Eastern religions. I'm not talking about actual karma. I'm talking about what Christians mean, which is whatever you put out into the universe, that's what will come back to you. And I bet you could. I bet if we like spent the time to search through that Joel Osteen cube, we could find him saying
It's
something.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can smell it. I know it's in there.
Yeah, it's not true. So before we get into the scripture of it, let's talk a little bit about. So in Eastern religions, the idea of karma is actually rooted in the idea of reincarnation. It's not what you put out, you get back. It's your existence is the quality of your existence is somewhat predetermined by how well you have lived. And your future existence or your reincarnation will be determined on how well you are living your karma now. So if you are faithful and humble and really detached, and like specifically detached is the Buddhist idea. If you are detached from the material, and if you can, I like the way that Joseph Campbell puts it. Try to identify with the light, not the bulb. Mm-hmm. You know, if the better you do at that, when you die and are reincarnated, you will elevate your existence through the animals and through the caste system. And that's the other thing too, especially in India, there's a caste system. So it's like if you're a working class person, if you can just be the best working class, accept your karma, live into it, and then when you die and you're reincarnated, you will be better off. And then you have to do that karma. And so when anything kind of like bad happens, like a common phrase would be like, this is your karma. This
Right.
is your karma. This is
This
is what you are supposed to lean into and be detached from. This is the universe teaching you to be detached. So that's very Eastern philosophy, okay? When Christians say it, what they mean is, if you talk shit about me, then that's just going to come right back at you. It's the adult version of, I'm rubber and you're glue, okay? And whatever you say bounces off of me, and guess what, boo-boo?
It sticks to you.
Oh no, it sticks to you! Yeah.
I'm waiting to see how long it takes you to
Yeah, I know. We may have discovered a fatal flaw in the design.
I thought you were going the eye for an eye lane. Like not that's not
vengeance.
karma, that's retribution.
Yeah, retribution,
Same.
vengeance. Some would say justice, and we can talk a little. That's actually a really. All right, I'm just going to spill the beans because at some point we will talk about that. People always think that means if you do to me, then I should get to do to you.
Right.
I should get to.
The real reason for that law is because at the time it was like, hey, if you steal a loaf of bread, then we cut your fucking hands off. And the reason for eye for an eye was not about like you can extract retribution. It was more like, whoa, if somebody steals a loaf of bread, let's fine them the cost of a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Let's not cut their hands off.
Right.
Like, and so eye for an eye, not death for an eye.
Yeah.
You know, like that was really the emphasis behind
It's
that
an
phrase.
overkill.
Yeah, it's like how about justice instead of revenge?
Yeah.
So it's actually a gracious law in the context that it was written. I digress. We'll get to that one day.
Ooh,
Who
I got
knows?
something good on that though.
Okay, well, you make a note, and whenever we get to it, you can bring it right up.
There's no way I find this again.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to remember to ask you either. Okay, so karma. Now, when Christians mean it, as I said, it usually means like, yeah, whatever you put out, that's just going to come right back on you. And what I want to point out is that is completely antithetical to the idea that is at the center of Christianity, which is grace.
I think it also, sorry, I just had this revelation.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. But I think it also, like, aside from the rubber and glue, the opposite thing is true too. I know that rhyme. That's so stupid. But I hear a lot of Christians...
Rhyming's not stupid.
A lot of Christians say things like...
I love rhymes.
Particularly, I'm speaking to, like, Christian leadership or, like, leadership teams in churches. Something that I've experienced from being on a leadership team or a serving team or fill in the blank is... If you don't come and serve and do this event and you don't go and you reach other people and you like put out energy to be with other people, then God's blessings aren't going to come to you either. Would you say that falls into the same category?
Yeah, it's the idea of earned. So at the center of the what goes around comes around, like reap what you sow idea, is earned favor.
Cool. Okay.
The opposite of earned favor is grace, and the definition of grace is unearned favor.
Right.
Like that's the basic definition of now it's difficult because just like everything else that we've talked about in this series, it's a half truth. Mm-hmm. Like on its face, of course, if you walk around treating people horribly, at some point that's coming back at you because people don't like jerks. Like you're going to find yourself lonely. You're going to find yourself unable to depend on anyone. You're going to find yourself in need without any support.
But it's a matter of time until you find the person that doesn't take that from you. They've had the perfect amount of things happen per day, per whatever, that as soon as you do it again to someone else, that one person goes, it's over. Now I get to yell at you. Meaning like, what you're saying, like
there's too many pronouns. I couldn't follow what you're saying.
I'm trying to get.
I couldn't
your
follow
point,
the
and I'm not
pronouns.
getting it. It's not landing.
pronoun man. No, it's gonna get him in the end type of speech. So
Okay.
like, man, that guy can't do that forever. Someone's gonna,
Right.
Someone.
Yeah.
He's gonna.
Except there
Yeah.
are some people who can.
Well.
Like that's the problem with the idea of the Christian concept of karma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some people that get away with it.
That's true.
I mean, like there's some people. I mean, not to be all fucking conspiracy theory, but like Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. Like he didn't.
There's no way. Some people got away with that. Some people assassinated a guy who was being held in prison because he knew things. I mean, almost certainly that's
All
what
the
happened.
things.
I mean, just like almost certainly that's what happened. And if I'm completely wrong about that, which I could be, I'm an idiot and I don't know everything. I could be wrong about that. But like, certainly we can all acknowledge that there are cases where that has happened, where somebody has just completely gotten away with things that they should not have. And like, so this idea of karma is actually not real. It's certainly not a Christian idea. And it goes both ways. Like, sometimes people get away with stuff.
Right.
And sometimes people get like completely crushed by things that they didn't earn.
I was gonna say the opposite. You just said the opposite side of it. Like, man, you might get away with it. Wow, you sped a 90 through a 45, and there was a cop there, and he didn't pull out to pull you up. You got away with it. Sorry, kid. Or like, good for you, kid. But on the opposite of, I go 47 and a 45, and the cop goes,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
too fast, buddy.
Yeah.
Here's a $13 ticket because you went 2 miles over the speed limit.
I wish.
But
I wish it was $13.
when the shit happens, and when it does it does.
Yeah.
Well, so now I want to talk about the positive, because it can seem frustrating that people get away with things, and especially if you feel like you've been slighted, or like that. It's very it can certainly, and that's a thing for me too personally. Like, I joke about it recently. Like, I dare you to try and cut in line in front of me. I dare you, if I'm there, and not even in front of me. If you just try to cut in line while I'm present, be like, oh, no. Like, I'll put my hand on your chest. Like, oh, no. You go back there.
Yeah.
Please, God, never let somebody cut the line.
Especially
with
for a
Chris while I'm
pork-filled
there.
pig intestine.
It's
On a bun
Please.
with mustard.
Please, no.
no, don't get me wrong. I try not to be a complete jerk about it, but I will definitely not ignore it.
Right.
Like, I can't stand, like, we're adults.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
This is like kindergarten stuff.
No,
this is like no cuts.
And I'm saying it's not a child doing it where you're like, hey.
Yeah, a child doesn't understand. They're
Right,
like
it's
doing
someone
it.
knowingly do
there's-
it.
It's an adult who's like, I'm cutting.
Yeah, who has not?
I deserve more than you.
Right.
What?
What world do we live in?
Like Dave Chappelle has had, and it's not even a bit. It's just a lovely line in one of his recent specials on Netflix, and he just says like, that's one of the great things about this country is everyone waits in line to vote. Nobody cuts the line to vote. Like, if you want to vote, regardless if you're a president, if you're a wealthy, oh, okay, that camera's done. All right.
Well, this one's still on.
That's okay. That's the one we need to be on. But if you're wealthy, if you're powerful, if you're poor, if you're, regardless of gender, regardless of race, like, everyone stands in line to vote. You know, that's a metaphor because obviously you can mail in a ballot. You know.
Yeah.
But I really resonate with that. Like, anybody who presumes higher quality of humanity than someone else, I take issue with. But let's face it, people get away with it. So I understand I can understand, especially if somebody's been slighted, the feeling of like, that's not fair. Like, I'm with you, I get that. However, I want to make the case tonight for, it's actually a good thing that the world doesn't work that way. And so I want to simply start by talking about, so when I was married before I was married, I was divorced, and at the time of my divorce, you know, like, it was me and somebody else who was paying the bills. So we had two incomes, and I was making more, but I was counting on a significant amount of that income to pay the mortgage and pay for my car payment and pay and just all of the things that you know, a married couple kind of contribute together. And at the time of my divorce, and also I had credit card debt because we had racked up credit card debt during our marriage, you know, and part of that's my own doing because I was trying to save the relationship by overspending, which is stupid. Don't do it. It's a mistake. Yeah, don't do it. It's a mistake.
Speaking of karma,
Yeah, what goes around
My
comes
credit card
around.
company
Sometimes
goes,
what goes around comes around. But sometimes they extract a higher penalty, and eye for an eye could. Anyway, I digress. But anyway, the whole point of that is, after the divorce and I was literally doing the math, like basic arithmetic. And I started, and there's this guy, Dave Ramsey, who's like very conservative.
The Dave Ramsey.
But he's very good.
And I follow his like Every Dollar app and all that.
Yeah, man. He like I really his whole idea and program saved my life. But here's the thing: when I started looking at like how he like what his advice is and what he was doing, it's all arithmetic. It's all just like the basics of it are add up all of your bills, add up all of your income. The minute the bills start to go past the income, subtract some of your bills. Like start cutting things. And I remember adding up all my bills and it's like more, and I was looking and I was like, I don't know what to cut here. This is hard. And I'm like, it felt utterly hopeless is the thing that I want to communicate. It was hopeless. It was like, I don't know how to dig out of this hole. I've gotten myself into this. Like, even if I sell the house, I hadn't owned the house long enough. I can't sell the house. Yeah. Like, I'm stuck in this hole. I don't know what to do now. And it was just utterly hopeless. So, the thing about Dave Ramsey, and this is back kind of before podcasts and having your phone plugged into your car was like, now I almost always just listen to my phone in my car.
How old were you, by the way, in this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
28, 27, 28.
Speaking to a ton of people right now.
Yeah. 28-ish.
Like
Before 30, after 27. Because I remember going through 27 in my marriage. Because it was kind of, I don't know why, but that number fucked me up.
Anyway, 27-year-olds.
Yeah. So the arithmetic was like, whatever, not that helpful. It is helpful because it's giving you permission to just be objective about it. The thing that actually helped me was on his AM radio program daily, at the end of, or at least at some point, I can't remember if it was the end or what, but at some point he always had people call in who had worked his program. And all he asked them to do is like tell their story. And so they like, we were in, we had 2 cars and like $20,000 of credit card debt, and we were upside down, and they just talk and they just lift up these huge numbers. Like, we were $200,000 in debt, and we started working your program like 10 years ago or whatever, something like that. And then he asked them things like, what was the hardest thing to give up? And what was the first bill you paid off? And like, he just asked them to tell their story a little bit. And at the end, they do this thing where they debt-free scream. They yell, we're debt-free. And usually there's like the whole family around along the line. And he goes, we're debt-free. And then they play the music from Braveheart when Mel Gibson yells out, freedom! And it's the most like moving thing. And like, I didn't need the arithmetic. What I needed was somebody to tell me it's not hopeless. I've been where you are, and there is a way out. I've been where you are, and this doesn't have to define you or destroy you.
Right.
That is grace. I had earned debt. You know what I mean? I had earned my lot in life. I had earned kind of like the anxiety and the worry of all of that, and in the midst of my hopelessness of it's because it's not just that I couldn't find a way out, it's that I deserved it. It's the feeling of I deserved it. Like, I did this, I made these choices, I failed in this way, this is what I deserve. And like, my mom, who is much less wealthy than me, at the time had a chunk of change and helped me pay down my car so I wouldn't have a car payment. And she came when I was going to seminary. She came and watched the dogs so that I wouldn't have to pay for like a dog sitter. And my church allowed me to like basically reconfigure my whole salary package so that I could use what they had allocated for health insurance as as tuition. And then I that's when I finally cut the cable bill. Like I cut out cable and like made all these it was me doing what I needed to do combined with a bunch of people who came around me and gave me the means that I did not earn or deserve. And if we lived in truly what goes around comes around, I would have been utterly, that would have been it. I would have been done. That's the end. That's the end of Chris's story, And that's why grace is so powerful. So we've gone a long time without talking about scripture. I want to talk about the character of Peter in the Gospels. So I'm going to look at John, the very, 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 very end of the Gospel of John, chapter 21, and I'm going to start at verse 15 and I don't know, read until I stop. So this is the very end, after Jesus' death and resurrection, and this is him appearing to his disciples, and they have breakfast on the side of the shore, and then Jesus has the conversation with Peter. So chapter 21, verse 15. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." This is a weird little text, but I want to talk about, really we have to read the whole story, and that's boring. So I'm just going to give you the Cliff's Notes on what leads up to this moment and why this moment matters so much. So Peter, Simon is his original name. The reason he gets the name Peter is because of all the disciples, of all the 12 that follow Jesus, he is the first one to proclaim out loud that Jesus is the Messiah, the one who's promised. Jesus is really challenging his disciples to figure this out, and Simon's the first one to say out loud, "I think you're him. I think you're the one." And then Jesus says to him in that moment, "These words are not from your own mouth, but they are from the Holy Spirit. And I will no longer call you Simon, but I will call you Petra, Peter," which means stone for building. And then he says, "Because on you I am going to build my church." It's a big, profound statement. Fast forward. After the triumphal entry, Jonah's snoring over here. I don't know if it's coming through any mics, but it's cute. Triumphal entry, Jesus has Jerusalem. He has the crowd. He has, this is it. And at the end of that week, at the Last Supper, Jesus announces to everyone, "I'm going to be tried, I'm going to be convicted, and I'm going to be executed. And then I'm going to rise from the dead." And everyone's like, "What?" And they all are like, "Surely not, no!" And then Jesus says, "One of you is going to betray me, and one of you is going to deny me." And Peter, turns out, is the one who's going to deny him. And when it's revealed, Peter says, "Absolutely not. Never. I will stick with you until the end. I will never deny that I know you or that I'm with you. I am with you to the end." And that exact night, the same night, Jesus gets arrested And while he's being interrogated, people approach Peter and they say, weren't you one of his disciples? And because he's too chicken shit, he says, I don't know, not me, that ain't me. And another person comes up and he says, nope, that ain't me. And a third person comes up and he says, I'm telling you, I don't know him. And then a cock crows as the sun is coming up. And that was the sign that was going to remind, and like, so he's got this, like, I'm going to be with you to the end. And then he utterly, completely, that night, does the exact opposite. Like, he completely betrays him, completely refuses him, and denies him, and just doesn't even admit that he knows him. It's like, nope, I'm out. And the cock crows. Jesus goes on to be executed, shamefully, publicly, horribly, torturously. And then the women go to the tomb to clean the body. And they find that it's not there. And an angel appears to them and says, and in fact, in John's gospel, Jesus literally shows himself to these women. And they come back and they tell all the disciples, I saw him, he's alive. And Peter's there going like, what? Like, the last thing he did when he was alive was deny that he knew him. And that was Peter's legacy. Before Jesus died, the last thing that he had to say about him was, I don't know him. And Jesus hadn't appeared to Peter yet. They're fishing, which is the first time that Jesus appeared to Simon, who is Peter. And Jesus does a little bit of a similar routine about casting nets on one side or the other. And somebody goes, that's Jesus. And Simon takes a minute to think about it, and then, because they fish naked, because they're out in the water, he puts on clothes and he jumps in the water and he swims to shore because he's so eager to try and make amends. I presume, the writer doesn't talk about the inner workings of Peter's thoughts, but we can presume that
makes sense.
He's desperate to get there. He's desperate to encounter, and when he gets there, Jesus is there like with a charcoal fire and making breakfast, and they eat breakfast. And like, I can imagine the tension,
Yeah.
So Peter has denied him 3 times. That's the last time that there was anything about Jesus before he died. Now Jesus is here, and Peter's like, so how's it going? Like, there's this tension I can imagine. And then Jesus asks him this question, do you love me? Now, like, forget what we know about the story and just think for a second. The last thing he did was deny him. Jesus told him he was going to deny him, and Jesus asked him the question, do you love me? I want to put even in the state. Do you even love me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Simon's like, yes. Like, yes. Like, just completely not deserving of it. It's just, yes. And they go on, and then he asks him the second time, do you love me? And I can imagine like this, oh God, it's not working. And he's like, yes, I do, And after he says yes, he says, feed my sheep. He gives him this command. And I love the phrasing in this text. On the third time, that's when Simon Peter, it says that he feels hurt. I like to read into that and interpret that it's the third time that he realizes that it's the third time, just like the 3 times he betrayed, just like the 3 times he denied. That like this, there's this 3 and 3 pattern,
Yeah.
And I think there is something to that's when Simon finally realizes, oh, that's what this is about. And he says, you know everything, you know that I love you. And he says, feed my sheep. And the reason the phrase feed my sheep is so important is because it harkens back to that first time when he says, you are the rock on which I will build this church. And whatever you reap on earth, will be honored in heaven. I will give you the keys to the kingdom. Like, it's this revelation that despite his complete and total failure, that he is still in on the end, that he is still acceptable, and maybe even because of his failure, that he is the right person to lead the church in the beginning. This is the opposite of karma.
Right.
Peter does not deserve this. He does not deserve it in the least. And yet it's given to him because of grace, because of what's been done for him. So I want to ask, have you ever gotten anything you didn't deserve?
A few times. You live through your 20s and things happen like, I should be dead right now. It's happened to other people, and I'll compare it to this whatever moment. I drove under some kind of influence I shouldn't have been, including like anger or whatever, but obviously influences. Where I should have been pulled over. I could have hurt somebody. I could have done this. And in the end, when you get home and go, how in the world am I alive right now? Or, close calls, even like without the influence part, but other people doing crazy things and you being in the middle of it and just missing your car, or you barely just got run over by a bicycle, or somebody's relationship barely slipped past you, but you had the timing to grab it as it was happening and either fix or help or love or talk. But for the thankfulness later of, how did that, anytime you have that, how did that just work out? Feeling?
Yeah, close calls.
Yeah. Or in a school sense of like a professor reaching out like, by the way, you missed an exam 6 months ago. I'm going to give you the word grace here, and you can retake it for like 70% credit. But it's better than a 0. Go, because I don't want you to fail, or I don't want this. But those moments of, I was unprompted. No prompt, no jab, no nothing. There's just some graceful aura happening that I feel so just like a fish just flopping around. And one of the flops, you hit the button that makes the thing happen. You go, oh my God, it happened. Why? How did I do that? How did this work out? How did this person stop being upset with me? How did this person not get upset in the first place like I overthought they did? And we're in a good place, or we moved on from this. It's this human, very human, I've caused something, I deserve this. Where the deserving is it's
Oh yeah, it's
a runaround.
Yeah, right. It can really like.
It's all this like progressive. I need to be better.
You can get
by the
stuck
end
in
of it. Yeah. And if I'm not doing better, what am I doing? And then go back to the start line. Okay, well, I'm not doing better again. How can I be better? Oh, I'm bad again. Okay, no. And over and over and until you're fatigued.
Yeah, I feel like this year in general for me was that, this year is supposed to be kind of just like, by this year I mean 2020, was supposed to be just a really shitty year all around with the pandemic and not being able to see people and coronavirus and politically and...
You mean like trying to start a church?
In the middle of a pandemic? Yeah.
Well, not even that, but like right when we got done, we're like, wow, that felt really good.
Literally like 3 days later, March 20th, the world shuts down. We had our thing on March 17th or whatever.
No, it was March, I remember it. It was March 15th.
Figure it out again.
March 16th was quarantine.
Yeah.
Was the beginning of quarantine.
Well,
At least in Florida.
So this year was supposed to be like a dud, but honestly, like I feel like 2020 was one of the most transformative, like biggest years of my life, whether it be just like random financial blessings that have now set us up to be able to buy a house this year, or me taking back my own physical health, or adopting the dog, or like ironically I made a bunch of friends in quarantine when I wasn't even supposed to see the ones that I had in my inner circle. Like I just feel like it opened up a lot of doors.
I think it made a lot of people more open to, like, normally it takes a lot to establish a friendship. And I think I don't know if it's just this area or if it's specifically quarantine, but it made people more sensitive to no, we don't have to like run into each other 5 more times before
Right.
we're friends. We can just be friends now.
Yeah.
Like we ran into each other at the dog park. Let's exchange phone numbers. We're friends now.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it brought out some, like, shout out to Kristen and Dion, like some of my closest friends that, like, if quarantine hadn't happened, never would have really met them. And they lived downstairs from us for 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a Peter story.
yeah.
How many failures have I gone through and somebody's still like, you're still a good kid. Don't worry about it. What are we talking about here? Feed people, please. Why are you worried about?
Yeah.
You don't get. There's too much. Stop with the. There's no more. Like keep moving forward.
Well, so I'm glad you're talking about that because I think there's something very interesting tapped into the grace is direct in this particular story. The grace is directly connected to the problem in the story is I can't be the one to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Jesus is saying, don't worry about that. Just feed my sheep. Just lean into, like, you're right. You don't deserve it. Who cares? That's not the point. The point is they need it.
Right.
And in serving, you will find fulfillment. Like, and that's why, like, I've had this conversation with a few different people. Any theology, any Christian theology that starts anywhere other than you are fully embraced and loved, period. Mm-hmm. And it's not because of like anything you can do or offer or like it is simply because of the grace of God and the favor and love and affection and like genuine well-wish that your Creator has for you because of your just inner essence, being, soul, exist, like just the corest of the core, like, and there's nothing you can do that will ever separate yourself from that grace. Now, you can refuse to cooperate with it, and you can insist on acting as though it's not there, and that's a real thing that people do, for sure. But the starting place of all theology, of all Christian theology at least, is that you are loved and God wants to extend grace and embrace you as a part of the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And it's not, I have to do these things first, and I have to get this right, or I have to correct this before. No, the only thing you can do is offer things in response to the grace, not somehow like affirm or the Christian word is justified to like make yourself equal ahead of the grace. You can't. It's like, no, it's too late. It's already been given to you. The money's already in the bank, buddy.
It's unaccountable.
Yeah. The money's already there. It's too late. The only thing you can do is give it away to somebody else. That's the best thing you can possibly hope to do.
Oh,
no.
No.
That's interesting because like today I was talking to somebody who like was going through some stuff.
Your husband?
No. Was going through some stuff and was feeling really guilty about some of the stuff they had gone through. And one of the things that this person said to me was like, I need to get right with God. I need to, I need to reconnect and get right. And it's mind-blowing to me because I feel like the message you're trying to preach is the one that should be like talked about.
So God's right
freely.
here.
Right.
Here we are.
There's no getting right with
You want to get right with God. Here you are. Here we go.
But
we're right here. We are now.
And I think it's because of this message of karma that gets thrown around and spread around. Like, people have it the opposite, that when they go through hard things, when they make mistakes, when they choose to be vulnerable and be human and feel those feelings and die to those things, they feel like they're pushing God away rather than letting him into their life. And
I think there is something to the feeling of pushing God away. I believe that the truth is like, well, you're trying to push against the waves. Like, like go out into the ocean and try and push the waves away from the shore.
And see how that goes.
Yeah, give it a try. It's not going to work. Like, you're still in the ocean, you're still having these waves hit you no matter what. Now, you can enjoy the waves, or you can fight against the waves. And that is to me, that is the essence of God's grace. And when we lean into the waves and cooperate with the waves, and like, you can do all kinds of fun things. You can surf, you can body surf, you can swim, you can dive under, you can, like, there's all kinds of wonderful things there. But like, if you try, but it's not like pushing against the waves ever makes them stop at all. And so, like, that's the thing, is like, I got to get right with God. It's like, okay, you are.
What
Now what? Now what? And it's like, well, the harder work is, no, I don't want to get right with God because I'm afraid of what it will mean, or I'm afraid of how I will feel, or I'm afraid of acknowledging a world that's out of my control. Because if I admit that God's grace is coming at me in such just an unlimited loving way, then that means that everything that's bad that's happened to me is ultimately out of my control. Like, I haven't done, like, there's actually a weird comfort that people have in the idea that everything that's happened has been a result of, like, punishment reward. Because it creates a sense of control.
Right. Well, and when people use that getting right with God phrase, they typically mean it in the, like, oh, I got to start going to church on Sundays again, and I got to start tithing, and I got to stop cussing and drinking, or fill in the blank. Like, it's a thing that they have to do because it's that very transactional.
Maybe that's true, but it's not true that in order to get right with God, you have to do that.
Right.
It's, no. You can be right with God right now, and then in that actual conversation and communion with something huger than you, in the actual receiving of that grace, then the hard questions can sometimes come, like, what needs to die? And sometimes that is, I need to give up drinking. Sometimes that is, I need to be accountable to a group of people every week in this way. Sometimes that is, I've been cheating on my spouse and it's time for me to confess and like, get over that, and like, try and reconcile if it's at all possible, or at the very least let him or her off the hook, or, you know, like, sometimes, like, but I insist, I demand, like, it is my Wesleyan, like, calling by God. I declare with the power of Christ, all of it is in response to a God who loves first regardless. Mm-hmm. You cannot, it is impossible. God's love and grace is too infinitely large for you to ever fight it. It is impossible. Impossible. And I don't care what imaginable scenario you are thinking of. Like, you still cannot separate yourself from God's grace.
Yeah. And I think that what has to die phrase is something that gets glanced over a lot.
Yeah.
And people immediately, like, okay, like I was saying, I want to get right with God, so I'm going to look at all the action steps. And this first initial step of what has to die? Like, what do you need to be vulnerable about? What do you need to...
recovery. Like, like 12 every 12-step program, the first step is admit you have a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And surrender to a higher power. Like, it's the first things you have to do before you can even begin are to just kind of confess that you are in the midst of something bigger that is graceful.
Right.
That is pouring into you, not the opposite. That's demanding from you, you know? Like, and I would say that a lot of this has been corrupted by institutions, and I'll confess the church for sure, institutions that we want your fill in the blank. Time, energy, attention, money, you fill in the blank. And sometimes it's even more nefarious than that. Your sexual attention, your blind obedience. You're it can get really awfully bad. And so they have to corrupt the theology and the gospel to say, we have the grace and the love, and in order to get it, you must do what we say. Mm-hmm. And anything that sounds even close to that, back out of the room. Don't leave the room. Back out, because if you turn your back, they will stab you, or they'll steal your wallet, or something like that. Like, do not trust them.
You're dieting.
Yeah, I mean, and Christianity, unfortunately, many Christian institutions have been doing this for a terribly long time.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna start crying and now I'm laughing, so that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same emotion. I don't know. But
Well,
I was gonna get
Laughing and crying
Yeah.
have a very similar cathartic physiological response. So
or release,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna get at, again, sorry to bring up sadness, sorrow, but how sad it is for a preach or a sermon to happen of we're all in this together because we're all screw ups, and you hear screw up and you go, yep, I'm definitely one, yep, 100%. I won't tell my neighbor, I won't tell my kids, I won't tell my spouse because I did so bad that I know I will be punished for it, whatever transactional shit you want to talk
yeah.
about. But the to quote Segura again, the moment after the sermon, the moment somebody injustifies someone else, somebody doesn't do something that you have coped with and now are a weird way about, and you see them do it, like somebody gets to scold their kid in a justified way of a kid being bad, which makes you remember your mom yelled at you 40 years ago about this one thing, and you go, this is not right. Forgetting the whole 2.5 hour or whatever sermon before that just happened about.
I hope not 2.5 hours.
Well, no.
Please no.
No, I
like
know. Like,
exaggerating.
20 minutes.
But like, I'm glad if you needed sleep, fall asleep. I'm glad for you. But in that first 10 minutes of we're all screw ups here, please hear me, didn't get to you, or you glaze over, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
But
Well, and because that can also be misused so hard.
misuse
like-
is a good word.
We're all sinners in the hands of an angry God. Like no. Like there's a smile. There's a smile on our faces when we say it. We're all screw ups.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, join this. Come on, we have jackets. Join the club.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a handshake and everything. Like be part of it. Because the fact that we are screw ups does not exempt us from participation in the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity. This kingdom of heaven language that's bursting forth. This potential of consciousness to genuinely connect and love in a way that surpasses like the rules of like should and ought, and which is grace. Like because we receive grace, we're able to show grace, and in showing grace, we get to participate in this higher level of consciousness that actually, believe it or not, fills us with something that is quite intangible and immeasurable, but is absolutely there. It's a real thing. It really genuinely changes people, and it changes not just like, it's hard to describe because it's such an ethereal, abstract kind of like existence level kind of a thing. But like when we really, really receive that kind of grace and really, really respond to it in ways like, it's as simple as, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Then feed my sheep. Okay. Oh God, I'm so glad I'm in. Let me feed the sheep, Not in a I'll be the best sheep feeder that ever fed sheep, and the sheep will be so full. My sheep are gonna be so fed, you won't believe how fat my fucking sheep are. It's not that, but in this really genuine way of yeah, man. It's daily that I am dependent on this proclivity of existence to move us forward in love. I am dependent on it daily. And when I don't cooperate with it, I find myself kind of making an ass out of myself.
Yeah.
And when I do cooperate with it,
I'm glad I agreed on that.
yeah.
Making an ass of myself.
Yeah.
I was talking about myself.
No.
Yeah, right.
That's the joke
it's,
here.
It's
Yeah.
we're all screw ups,
Yeah.
We're all part
But
when I do cooperate with it, miraculous, beautiful things can happen. People can find connection. God, what you were talking about. Look at the people who have accumulated around the Monday night and the discipleship groups that just these far-flung, disparate personalities that have come together and been
we would not have had round one of disciple groups last fall of quarantine. I'm not, but I don't think.
Yeah, and not to dissuade you and untoot your horn, but on your side is obviously a good, well-intended, let's do this, but there's another side to that as well, where people miss out on like, I shouldn't bother them because they're probably going through stuff right now. Whereas this one comes in and goes, I don't care what you're going through. What are you doing? You have a dog. I have a dog, and not to make fun of you like that.
That's
but
fair.
coming from another side of like, oh my God, someone's actually talking.
Not necessarily,
to me.
I don't care what you're going through,
Yeah.
but like, I care what you're going through. Tell me everything.
Yeah.
like I wasn't
But not
really
in
ready
a
to share
gossipy
that.
way, like in a genuine way.
Yeah.
That's a constant thing that I hear from a lot of people is like after like I wasn't really ready to share that, but I guess you know now.
But it comes from this graceful place of decency, where it's not the social decency. It's like an innate, like a I don't know. I'm not trying to toot your horn, but it's this innate. It's that grace thing of like I've been through shit. You've been through shit. Can we connect here? What are we?
I can tell you how it feels to me when I'm in that place particularly. What I feel overwhelmingly is I remember where I was. I can still feel what it was like to not be to not feel accepted and loved. I can still it will be with me till like day I die. I know it.
Okay, stress number Enneagram 2.
Like I feel it. I know what it feels like. And I am so utterly grateful to be free from that feeling for like on an existential level. It's not to say that I don't feel excluded sometimes, and
Sure.
like certainly things happen where I go like, oh, that hurt my feelings. Like that, not that, but I'm talking about on an existential level. I went from feeling like I don't belong alive, not in a suicidal way, but like it's just like I don't know. It feels like society was built for other people. Like it feels like I'm just not supposed to be a part of this, I guess. Going from that to feeling like I now know who I am, I like who I am, I enjoy what God has made. That like so when I'm flowing with it, because it's not always, but when I'm in the zone and I really connect with people who then share positive, affirming feedback, like, wow, I've never shared that with, I don't talk to many people that way, and those types of things where what they're essentially saying is like, wow, we really got connected really quick. The thing that I'm feeling most of all is gratitude from the like, I remember the feeling of disconnection. And I'm renewing my appreciation for the feeling of connection. I've received that grace. I'm so glad to show that grace, even if it's just for a moment to somebody else.
Yeah, I identify with that very strongly too.
Yeah, there's like a tie-in of a because of with the suffering.
Do you love me?
It's
feed my sheep. Yeah. Like, do you receive this grace? Yes, please give it to me. I need it. Great. Go now. Then yes, like now go do it. Like now go do the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Like go find somebody who needs it. Go be in love with the world. Go be in love with creation. Like find a person who's just alone, or a person who is maybe has a lot of people but doesn't have the connect, like or whatever it is that you have to offer. Like because some people, like I'm talking about my specific gift. Some people it's financial. Some people it's like acts of service. Like there's this guy that my mom made friends with who's literally just been helping her like clean out her yard because she's kind of old and can't quite do it anymore, you know? It's like, and like he may not be a talker and he may not have a lot of wealth, but what he's got he's sharing. And that kind of like receive grace and then go live it, go do it, like you don't have to repay it back. You can't. It's impossible. All you can do is share it with other people. That's the only response you can possibly give.
Why hide it under a bushel?
Yeah.
We literally learned it as children.
Don't hide it under a bushel, man. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
I did have something, but I forgot.
It's okay. It's probably for the best. It feels like we're running towards the end.
Sure, yeah.
And then Brad is still recording. That's great. I think I may have fixed the recording stuff. Yay. I don't want to jinx it, though.
I remember what it was. It's really quick.
Okay.
It's on the Peter story. It's like the first quote was like, talk about a resurrection story. Of someone literally coming back from the dead. Talk about what you will. he literally comes back and goes, "You good?" You can get the second chance to go, "Oh my, I totally screwed this
Well,
up."
there's something in it that, like, it's like he came back for Peter.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
Yeah.
Jesus didn't need to come.
yeah.
Jesus didn't need anything from this conversation.
Yeah.
Like Peter
Yeah.
did. Peter needed
Yeah.
the reminder and the reconciliation and the
Yeah,
reconnection.
you being the building stone, thinking of what you think a stone is not what's happening here. You're going to be the stone after I'm done with you.
Yeah.
Really done. Where
Well,
you
and
have
also, like,
fallen into
I need the stone that denied me.
because
I need the stone that denied me and has now been forgiven, and it like that's what I need.
Because that's what a stone is.
Yeah.
I know who you are. This is what you are,
Mhm.
and you're going to deny me, even if you say no, because you are what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
being a human.
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
Well, on that note, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you
When
peace.
you came around that you were gonna make me cry. It's breaking my heart to watch you run around, 'cause I know that you're living a lie. That's okay, baby, 'cause in time you will find what goes around, goes around.